Hey gang. So now it's time for us to apply our knowledge of seconds into creation of scales. Now what is a scale? Basically put, a scale is any way of getting from one note to the same note, or traversing an octave on the piano or with your voice or whatever instrument using a certain combination of whole steps and half steps. If we remember correctly, of course, the minor second is our half step. And the major second, that's an M. The major second is our whole step. These are the terms that are most often used by musicians, half step and whole step. And those are the ones that I'm going to most commonly refer to. But whether or not we use half steps or whole steps, and where we use them as we're getting from C to C, or whatever note back to itself, makes different sounds in music. And those sounds are what ends up being scales. So let's go ahead and start with the solfege for our basic major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Just like that. And anytime we sing a scale, major or otherwise, every note that we are singing is just the next step up on the staff. So they all have different letter names, right? In this case, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's always going to be stepwise motion. We're always moving in seconds of some kind, major or minor. But which type of second we're using and where is going to make different sounds for the scale. So we can analyze this a couple of different ways. I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to divide. Just draw a line straight down from each of the solfege syllables. So when I hit that line, that means I'm arriving at that solfege syllable. Let's make our major scale first. Now, the solfege is already built out for the major scale. And the way that we need to create that scale is with a certain pattern of whole steps and half steps. For our purposes, I'm going to just use an H for half step and a W for whole step. From do to re, we know that's a major second, that's a whole step. Re to mi is also a whole step. Mi to fa is a half step. Fa to sol is a whole step. Sol to la is a whole step. La to ti is a whole step. And ti to do is a half step. Okay? And you'll see this pattern a lot as you're learning through music. To make a major scale, you start on your given note on do and you go up a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half. Or whole, half, whole, half. This is important. I would recommend memorizing that. Now, the minor scales that we have to create are all based around the major scale. But in order to make the different sounds that they create, we have to change some of the steps that are whole and half, right? So let's go ahead and start with our natural minor scale. Now remember, the 3 scale degrees that we can change to make a minor scale are 3, which is mi. We can lower the 3rd scale degree or not. We'll also change la, which is the 6th scale degree, and we'll change ti, which is the 7th scale degree. These are the only ones that are going to be different for our scale. But what that means is that the interval on either side of these can be made to be different, depending on whether or not we're going to lower each of these scale degrees. So when I'm going to make my natural minor scale, I just lower all 3 of them, right? We're going to go mi to me. We're going to go la to lay. We're going to go ti to te. All 3 of those are lowered. And that will change the interval that we're going to need to use to get to that. So let's start from the beginning. Do to re is still a major second, whole step. But now re to me, that's a half step because we lowered mi to me. We made this interval smaller. Whereas me to fa, now that's going to be a whole step. Because we lowered mi, we made the interval between those 2 notes bigger. Fa to sol, neither of those notes changed, so that's still going to be a whole step. Sol to lay, oh, we lowered la to lay, so that's a half step now. lay to te. Both of these notes are lowered, lay and te, so that whole step just moved down a half step. It just went boink like that, but the size stayed the same, still a whole step. Then te to do, that's a whole step. So now we have the pattern for our natural minor scale. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. Which is incidentally the same pattern if you read your major scale starting on the 6th degree. Whole, half. Oh, yikes. Whole. I messed that up, but trust me, it's the same. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. There it is. We got it. Okay? Different scales, different patterns. Let's do melodic minor next. I'm saving harmonic minor for the last because that one's kind of wacky. So, to make a melodic minor scale, what do we change? Mi changes to me again, just like it did before. Now, for this scale, we only care about the ascending side because the descending side is just the natural minor scale, right? Do, te, le, sol, fa, me, re, do. So we don't need to do it again. We only care about the way going up. And on the way up, we're going to use la and we're going to use ti, just like normal, just like the major scale, which means that this is mostly going to be the same as our major scale patterns. Do to re to me to fa is a whole step. But then the rest of the patterns is just going to be the same because then we go fa, sol, la, ti, do, just like we did for major. So it's whole step, and half step. Okay, so there we go. Melodic minor, whole, half, whole, half. You do not need to memorize these, but it's not a bad idea to have them written down, to have them recorded somewhere. Now, the harmonic minor. I sure planned out my spacing well. Let's make our changes. Mi goes to me, like for every minor scale. La goes to lay. We're going to lower that one, but ti stays. And this interval is going to get interesting. This one's going to be fun when we get there. Well, let's figure it out first. The rest of it. Do to re to me. All of the minor scales start with these same intervals. In all of these four, this power zone, those are all going to be the same for all of my scales. So now I'm going sol to lay, that's a half step. And ti to do is also a half step. But we have a special type of second between lay and ti. La and ti is a whole step. And then I made lay lower, so I made that whole step one step bigger. It's not 2 half steps anymore. It's now 3 half steps. It's not a minor third, though. We're going to call it an augmented second. And I'm going to write the 2 big, because otherwise it means something else. It's called an augmented second. And that's special. That's what makes that scale sound like it does. The space between lay and ti. An augmented second is a second that takes up 3 half steps. For example, if I were to go from E flat to F sharp. Let's count it. Here we go. E flat, E, F, F sharp. 3 half steps, but it's not a minor third because it's still going from E to F. So it's still going to show up as a second on the keyboard. Okay, these are the 4 scales that I need to be able to create. So my exercises look like this. First exercise I've got to do is figure out what type of scale they've written for me here. And I've got a staff, I've got a clef, I've got all the notes of the scale. And I just have to pick, is this major? Is this harmonic minor, natural minor, or melodic minor? Well, we have to figure that out with whole steps and half steps. And these are the most important spots that I'm going to be looking. I'm going to look at my third, at the difference between re and mi, or re and me, to see if it's major and minor. Let's start with that. Okay, so do, re, and then mi. We're going from an A to a B. Let's see if that's a major second or a minor second. A sharp, B. Oh, we went 2 steps. Okay, 2 half steps. So that's a whole step. Whole between re and mi. The only one that works for is the major scale. And when we listen to it, well, it played it back for me. and it is indeed a major scale. Okay, perfect. Now let's check on this one. Let's see if we can do the same thing. Let's look at our second and third note first. A flat, B flat to C flat. Okay, let's look at it. Here's B flat, here's C flat. Oh, that's a half step. So now we know, because my distance from re to me is a half step, we know it has to be some kind of minor scale. Well, let's keep working. I don't have to look at fa or sol, because I know that those notes are going to stay the same, right? This is my power zone for all my minor scales. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, it's just going to stay the same. So next I'm going to skip to the fifth note, and I'm going to look at these intervals between sol, la, ti, and do, or their equivalents. Let's look at them. Okay, starting on sol. And we're going E flat to F flat. E flat, F flat. That's a half step. Okay, so difference between sol and la is a half step. That means it has to be natural minor or harmonic minor. Great, we're narrowing it down. Let's look at the next one. F flat to G from la to T. Okay, let's find it. Here's F flat, and 1, 2, 3. Now it's a G natural. It's no sharp, no flat on it, so it's got to be a white key, which means I'm going to have to take 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Which means it has to be my special augmented second. Remember, an augmented second is 3 half steps. And that interval between lay and ti only happens in the harmonic minor scale. So it's got to be that one. Wish it would play the whole scale for us. Okay, let's look at a new one. Again, so these are the intervals that I'm most interested in. Interval between re and mi, that one's important, and then between sol la, la ti, ti do. Okay, these are my power zones right around where these notes are being changed. So here we go. Re to mi, G to A flat. That's one step, that's a half step. Okay, so we're in the minor scale of some kind. Skip ahead, we're on the fifth note, sol to la. Let's see, is it a half step or a whole step? It's a C to a D flat. That's a half step, one step. Okay, so that means we have to be a natural minor or a harmonic minor. Sol to la is a half step, so we've eliminated. D flat to E natural. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's a second, that's 3 half steps. So that's our augmented second. That means it has to be the harmonic minor scale. Same principle. Second and third note, re to mi. F to G flat. That's a half step, we're in a minor scale. Sol to la. B flat to C flat, which is my white key, B flat to C flat. That's also a half step. Perfect. So now, again, natural minor or harmonic minor. So here's our big one again. C flat to D flat. C flat, 1, 2. That's just a whole step. Can't be harmonic minor because that distance from la to T would be an augmented second. Now, it's just our normal whole step. It's a natural minor scale. And it played the whole thing for us that time. Fantastic. Okay, second to third note, G to A. 1, here's G, 1, 2. That's 2 steps. That's a whole step. Only scale with a whole step between re and mi is the major scale. That was easy. Hoping we get a melodic minor scale here. And it looks like we might be in luck. Okay. Second scale degree, B flat to the third is C. 1, 2, whole step. Major scale. Second scale degree to the third, B flat to C flat. So it's a minor scale. Let's go to the fifth. Oh, we're on a C flat minor scale. I apologize. So that's D flat to E flat. 1, 2. Now that's a whole step. That's got to be our major scale. So to sum up, this chart's going to be helpful for you. You'll want to copy it down for yourself, and then just go through and analyze the space between re and mi. check that one first to see if it's a major scale or one of our minor scales. And then check your spaces between sol, la, and la, ti. Those intervals will then tell you what type of minor scale is it. Is it a half step, whole step for a natural minor? Whole step for melodic minor? Whole step or augmented second with our 3 half steps to make a harmonic minor scale. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to construct some scales. But the same patterns still apply. So we've been given a scale with a clef and our starting pitch. The starting pitch doesn't change. We don't get to move it around. We don't get to move the last note around either. It's not going to let me do that, right? It's not going to let me change those. I have to change everything in the middle to make this scale into a harmonic minor scale. So I know which scale I'm making. Let's just go straight down my line. Let's make a whole step. D to whole step. 1, 2. D to E. Don't need to change this note. It's already good. Now I need a half step. E to F. Let's see. E to F. Just one step. We're already good. That's already a half step. Next step is a whole step from F to G. Let's see, what do we get? 1, 2. That's already a whole step. We're good. Now I need another whole step from Fa to Sol. Starting on G, G, 1, 2. That's a whole step. We got it. Now I need a half step from Sol to La to make this a harmonic minor scale. Okay, A to B. Now let's make it a half step. So that's one half step. Here we go. 1. Okay, so it can't be a B natural like it is right now. We have to make it B flat. We have to lower that note so that now it's 1 half step. 1. Okay, now augmented second, 3 half steps. But we also still have to make this note some kind of a C. So let's count it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Make it a C sharp. And then a half step here, C sharp to D. And we landed. We're back where we belong. These are the only scales where you should see flats and sharps at the same time, sometimes, is a harmonic minor scale. And there's only a couple of them where I have to lower La, but T is still a sharp note. And we did it. Yeah, now let's look at the same scale, but we're going to make a natural minor scale. Okay, whole step, D2, 1, 2 to E. Then it's a half step, 1 to F. We're good. Then it's a whole step to G, 1, 2. Yep, we're still good. And another whole step to A, 1, 2. Still good. Now I need a half step and then a whole step. Okay, so a half step from A to B flat. Just one step. Make sure we lower that. Now I need a whole step. So here we go. 1, 2 to C. And it's a white key, so I'm going to leave it alone. And then another whole step. 1, 2 to D. Let's make a major scale this time. And there's a couple different ways we can do this, but let's use our intervals first. Whole step, A to B, 1, 2, we're good. Whole step from B, 1, 2. Okay, this one's got to be a C sharp. Let's add that sharp. Now a half step, C sharp, and 1, just normal old D. Perfect, we got it. Now a whole step from D to E, 1, 2, E is still good. Now we're going from Sol to La. We need another whole step, starting on E. 1, 2. Went to a black key. It's got to be an F sharp. Now I need another whole step from La to T, starting on F sharp. 1, 2. And we ended on another black key, so we add another sharp. Now, for major scales, there's another way to do this, of course.